Welcome to the channel Nursing in Handy. This channel is preferably for the nursing fraternities to have a continuous learning in the profession. Today we will be seeing about budgeting of various units and levels, application to nursing service and education. So before proceeding into the slides, we must know what the budget is. So in our daily day-to-day life, we do a budgeting. For example, I am getting a pocket money of rupees 10 rupees from my parents, means I will be doing a budgeting. For example, like 2 rupees I will be buying a candies, and 5 rupees I have to buy some chocolates or any other things. So I will be planning for that particular 10 rupees. And in the same way, the big budgets also. So when we are running a healthcare institutions or the educational institution, we have to plan the budgeting. So not only we have to plan the budget, but also we should have a proper control over the budget. For example, our mother will be just buying the grocery every month. So she will be planning according to the stagnation of the materials. If a particular material is being stagnated in the previous month, so she will decide not to buy that particular product which is being stagnated in the home. In the same way, the budgeting is also done in the educational institution. So we will do the budgeting plan for the annual year, and also our budgeting plan is like a visionary, or it is for the future purposes. So whatever we are doing the procurement, it is always based on the present use and also the future use, same as that of the what we do the budgeting in the homes. So we have to compare and we have to see how the budgeting is very much essential in day-to-day life. So even a common man requires a budgeting, and in the same way the healthcare institution also requires budgeting. So every organization has predetermined set of goals and objectives which are attainable only with the help of proper planning and execution of plans economically. Every organization prepares a budgets for its functioning. So budgeting be accomplished in such a way that it facilitates goal achievement. So we have some goal to get achieved. So to get that goal to be achieved, we should have the proper budgeting. Then only we can accomplish the goal. And also every organization prepares, either it is a healthcare institution or educational institution or any management levels. So every institution or organization prepares a budget it depending upon the annual level. For example, I want to do a procurement of particular equipment in this ward, means I will do the budgeting for that. So budgeting definition: that is a formulation of plan for a given future period in a numerical terms. The definition by Kuhn is. Other definition is: budget is a concrete, precise picture of the total operation of an enterprise in monetary terms. This definition is by the H.M. Donovan. So according to this definition, we are going to plan the budget that is in a numerical term, that is in rupees, or the cost we are going to have, that is known as budgeting. And in other terms, it means that it is a concrete, precise picture of total operation. So whatever we are planning for the whole year, it is being given in a numerical data. Next is principles of budgeting is annualarity. So whatever we are planning as a budget, it mainly focus on the annual level. That means next year if I am having an academic year, means I will be planning previous year itself. Next is unity. Another is exclusiveness. For example, exclusiveness means completely for that purpose. For example, I am the head of the department of a particular department, for example, child health nursing. So I want the mannequin of pediatric CPR. So I should do the procurement of that particular mannequin. Next is specificity. I should have a budget that is specifically for that particular use. Next is accountability. So whatever the budgeting I am going to do as the head of the institution, I should be very much accountable, and I should have a justifiable answer for what purpose I am doing that procurement of that particular equipment. So in head of the departments will be deciding, like I have a health education racks, or I want any nebulization machine. So I should have a justification and I should have a specific budget regarding to that. So that is the principles of budgeting, that is annualarity, based on the annual will be doing the budgeting. Unity, exclusively, that means exclusively for particularly for that purpose I am doing the budgeting. Next is specificity, that is specifically we are going to do the budgeting. For example, we will be having a budget for stationery, budget for salaries, budget for the educational tours, like that. Specifically we should plan the budgeting according to the needs. Next is accountability. So accountability again means whatever we are going to procure the equipments or any stationery items or the stipends we are going to give to the students, or any physical infrastructure it is going to we are going to change, or we are going to plan for the transport. So we are very much accountable whatever we do the budgeting process. Next is purpose of budgeting: to ensure most effective use of scarce financial and non-financial resources, to provide detailed plan to reduce uncertainty. It controls expense by efficient and economical manner. It aids for action and future needs. So first is to ensure the most effective use of scarce financial and non-financial resources. So we should plan the budgeting in the way that it is not being stagnated. Next is the budgeting always provides a detailed plan to reduce the uncertainty. That means if we have a proper planning only, we can proceed to the next levels. For example, I am having a plan of procuring the nebulization machines. So when I have a plan only, I will execute in the future terms. For that purpose only, we have to plan the budget so that the uncertainty in the future can be prevented. Next is it controls the expense by efficient and economical manner. So when we plan the budget only, we will be procuring the equipments in a economical manner. For example, like we are buying the vegetables from the shop. So in shop it is for per kg it is 20, and other shop it will be 25. So based on that we will be doing the budgeting. Next, steps in budget process is: first is budget estimate preparation, next is budget approval, next budget allocation and appropriation, and last is budget monitoring. So first is the budget estimate preparation. Means, for example, I am going to procure some of the articles for the lab. I will just have a estimation, that is the pediatric BP cuff is around 2000. So I will have in mind that when I am going to do the budget planning for that particular BP machine for the pediatric population, I will include it as a particular amount. That is the estimate preparation for each and every articles what we are going to procure, that should be listed. Next is budget approval. So once we are giving the estimate only, the head of the institution will give us a budget approval, and after approval they will do the allocation for each and every departments whether it is necessary or not, based on the situation. Next is budgeting for various units and levels. So hospital budget. Hospital budgeting is a process of estimating proposed expenditure and the means of financial these expenditure. So when we have a proposed expenditure, and in the same way we have to decide the financing these expenditure. So how much amount is being required for this procurement in hospital budget. Next is nursing budget. It is a systematic plan that is informed best estimate by the nurse administration of revenues and nursing expenses. So nursing personnel will decide the expenses for the nursing fraternities. That is means the nurse administrator will decide what all the expenses being needed for the nursing faculties. For example, staff development programs, or giving the in-service training for the nursing personnel, or giving or making the nurses to attend the seminars, workshops, like that, or doing the continuous nurses education, and that for that purpose there will be some expenses, right? In the same way, that nurse administrator who is going to be the part of the budget committee will decide for the nursing personnel we have this much amount for the next year, next annual year. That is the budgeting for the various units and level. First one is hospital budget, and next is from the hospital budget we will be segregating the budget for the nursing personnel for the improvement in the professional goals. For each and every year we will be improving our budgeting process. So the nurse administrator only will decide in what ways we are going to do the expense on the nursing personnel. Next is financial requirement of hospital. So capital funding for new technology. For example, the hospital is decided to procure a new technological advancement of diagnostics, like that. Then they will do the plan of budgeting for that new technological devices. Next is for preservation. Even for preservation of the equipments, we need a budgeting. Next, upgrading and replacement of physical facilities and equipment for expansion. So we have seen, no, in various hospitals they will be expanding the places based on the need of the hospital and also need of the population. So for that purpose only we have to plan the budget for the expansion purposes. Next is operating needs. That means there will be a movement of the resource will be there. That is salary. Salaries is also is known as movement budget or operating budget for the materials, supplies, maintenance and also the utilities. So operating needs like salaries for all the personnel, whether it is the educational institution or the healthcare institution, for clerical persons, for nursing personnel, and for the stipends if we are giving anything, or we are just planned for any award for the nursing personnel. So for that purpose and all, we will be allocating the budget in advance. Next is forecast of operating expenditure. That is for the salaries and wages. So I will be deciding, if I am the head of the institution or the management, I will be deciding that how much money should be allocated for the salaries and wages. Maybe I will be recruiting the new staffs, or I will be giving the pension schemes for the staffs. For that I will be just allocating the budget for the salaries and wages. Next is materials and supplies, utilities, and for even for the maintenance we have to allocate the separate budgeting. So every equipments we are being using in the hospitals or the educational institution requires some manpower. For that purpose we have to plan the budget even for the maintenance, and even for the condemnation process also we have to plan the budget. So this is one of the example of the hospital budget. So for this, like salaries, for equipment, for other expenses, that is known as contingencies, for medicines, for entertainment purposes, for surgical equipment, and for the service charges, for each and everything, the hospital and the budget committee will just figure out the how much budget is being required for the present year, and also they will compare with the previous year, and they will compare with the last 3 years how much amount is being increased based on the need, and also how much quantity is required. For example, already there will be some of the surgical equipments will be available. So in order to prevent the stagnation, and also if it is necessarily needed only, they will allocate the budget for that particular equipment. Next is nursing budget. So nursing budget is a systematic plan that is an informed best estimate by nurse administrators of revenue and nursing expenses. So nursing budget is a plan allocation of resource based on preconceived needs for a proposed series of programs to deliver patient care during one fiscal year. So we have seen, no, like budgeting is being prepared in a way in advance for the next year. If it is an education institution, then we'll be planning for the next academic year. In the same way, if it is a healthcare institution, the nursing budget is mainly for the revenues and the nursing expenses. We are going to attend any seminars or any workshops or continuous learning in our profession, or we are going to do any drill on the nursing profession, or whether we are going to give a in-service education, in-service training, orientation program, or any induction program. For each and everything we have to allocate the budget, that is especially for the nursing fraternities. So that is the mainly on the nursing budget is. So we will be planning for the revenues and for the salaries and wages and nursing expenses, and also we will give a demand that we want the recruitment of the nursing staffs. If we are going to recruit the new nursing staff, then how much amount has to be spent on that particular person for their induction training, orientation training, or giving in-service training, like that. So for if we are doing the recruitment, or we are going to give the pension schemes, or we are going to give a training for the personnel, for each and everything, each and every single movement on the nurses needs a budgeting. So that is known as a nursing budget. The nursing budget is also planned based on the resources, also planned based on the one fiscal year. So steps in preparation of nursing budget is: review the goals of the hospitals, review the objectives of the existing program, prepare a budget proposal. Next is compute the expense of each program, adopt alternative approach, compare the proposal, present the need required, staffs review the budget. So first of all, before planning the budget, we will see the goals of the hospitals. For example, the goal of the hospital is to provide the continuing or the comprehensive care on the cardiovascular diseases. Means our budget is mainly focused on the equipments or diagnostic purposes or whatever the functions we are being running on the hospitals. It is mainly based on the goal. So based on the goal, the budget is being prepared. Next is review the objectives of existing program. So already they will be having some budgeting program, so we have to review that. Next, prepare a budget proposal. So after reviewing these all things, you have to prepare a budget proposal. So based on the need, and also we should when the budgeting committee should have a justification for preparing the budget estimation. Next is compute the expense of the each program. So we will be giving the expense of each and every department separately. After that, the budget committee has to compute everything together and see the expenses whether it is needed or not. Next is adopt the alternative approach. If it is not necessarily needed, then budget committee will give an alternative approach for that procurement. Next is compare the proposal. So based on the proposals, they will compare which is best and effective one. Next is present the need required staff, review the budget. So budget committee will see that whether it is necessarily needed or not. So whoever who is preparing the budget for the particular department, they should be either accountable, and also they should be very specific in doing the budgeting for that particular procurement of the equipments. And in the same way, they should have a justifiable reason for doing that budgeting. For example, if I am the head of department of particular department like adult health nursing, so if I want any mannequins related to CPR, so in order to train my students, I want the mannequins. So I should have a proper justification for doing the procurement of the budgeting. Next is budget committee. So who all members will be there is budget director, director of nursing, director of human resource, director of material management, chief of medical staff, and chief executive officer. So these all are the members who will be the acting personnel in the budgeting process. So they will be doing the review of the budget, and they will see whether it is necessarily needed or not. So they will also see the specific reason and need for the budget, and what are the proposals. They will review it, and they will compare it with the previous last 3 years, and they will see whether it is necessarily needed based on the need, and also based on the population, or if it is a educational institution, whether it is necessarily needed or not, they will do, and they will do the approval of the budget. So if it is an educational institution, they will also plan the budgeting for the healthcare days and for attending any health camps. So for each and everything, they will scrutinize each and every step in the budgeting process. Each and every decimals is being scrutinized, and then only the budget will be approved. Whether it is a healthcare institution or the educational institution, they will do a proper scrutinization of the budgeting process. Then only they will give us a permission to procure the equipments. So it needs a systematic planning and also a systematic control of the planning. Next is budgeting for the educational institution. So schools should have a separate budget, that is the principal in charge of the school of nursing should be drawing and dispersing officer and empowered to plan for operating the funds in all different heads. The budget for the school or college is annually planned by the nursing director, principal and general manager, and approved by the managing director. So this indicates that the budgeting should be separate for the college of nursing and the school of nursing. So both the board, that is the universities and the board, should have a different budgeting. So the members involved in the budgeting processes, that is dispersing officer and also the principal and nursing director, they are the members who are being taking part in the budgeting process. So they will do the review of the budget, and they will give the need for the budget. That means if they want any procurement of particular equipment or items, they will go and approach the head of the institution, that is managing director. Then only that managing director will give the approval to the school of nursing and college of nursing. Next is budget proposal for nursing educational institution. So in educational institution, what all the budgeting we are focusing on is salaries. So salaries of the faculty, salaries for the head of department, salaries for the principal, vice principal, and salaries for the clerical persons, accounts persons, library persons, like that. Next is stipends for the students. If a particular college is decided to give a stipend for the students, they will allocate the budget for the stipends. Next is new equipment and supplies. So the college has decided to procure any new equipments or any supplies. For that purpose also they will be deciding the budget in advance. Next is office supplies, include stationery and postage. So if they are using the stationeries like paper, pens, stapler pens and pencils, for each and everything we have to plan the budget. Next, for the transport, either to the hospital, if the college is taking the students to the clinical areas or to the field visit, they will plan the budget for the transport purposes. Next is library. In library, the college will be procuring the journals or any journal club presentations, or any book is being procured. For each and every year they will be just procuring the new books from the library, for the libraries. For that also the educational institution will be planning the budget. Next is contingency, that is fund educational tours and professional activities. For example, if a college is being planning to celebrate any for example, I am telling like breast feeding week program, or deworming program, or vitamin prophylaxis program related to when it is being collaborated with the government. So for that purposes also, even for celebrating the health days, we are just planning the budget. And also if the college is being taking the students for the educational tours, so yearly they will be taking the faculties and the students for the educational tour. For that purpose also the educational institution will plan the budget. Next is steps in budgeting for College of Nursing. Present their needs for the coming year. So for the next academic year, they will plan in advance what all will be planned. So what all the health days are there, and what are the activities we are going to do. Whether if we are taking the students for any workshops or any conferences, for that purpose also we will be planning the budget for the forthcoming year. Next is review the budget appropriation. So how much amount is being given for each and every programs will be approved. Next is ascertain whether any changes are contemplated. That means if any changes is needed, so based on the previous year they will focus on the next academic year. So if it is needed, because each and everything is a error and correction method. So based on that we will do the correction for the next academic year. Next, prepare the program for which the new budget is to cover. Determine the percentage of salaries of personnel. Next, implementation of budget. So these are the steps for the College of Nursing. So this is the example of the College of Nursing budget. So previously we have seen the hospital budget. So this is now the College of Nursing budget. So rent towards the hostel, salaries, administration purposes, and for the vehicles, we will be doing the planning of the budgeting. So for example, they will be planning based on the last academic year. So last year's budget is being compared, and then the current year's budget is being planned. So this is just an example. So based on the planning, the budget committee will review the budget process, whether it is necessarily needed, or any maybe due to the hike for the salaries, some of the amount will be increased when compared to the last year. So based on that the budget will be prepared. So the budget committee will do the approval of that particular budget for the College of Nursing estimation. For example, the salaries is being increased for the nursing staff or tutors. So for that purpose that will be included. Next is role of nurse administrator in budgeting, that is visionary. So as a nurse we should plan the budget based on the vision, that means for the future uses. So whatever we are doing the procurement of any equipments, or even a stationary items we are going to have the budget, means it should be based on the future needs and terms. Next is planner. As a role of nurse we should have efficient planning and control over the equipments or any things we are going to plan the estimate of budget for the year. Next is demonstrator. Next is anticipator. We should have very much anticipatory functions to do the budget process for the particular departments. Next is responsibility of nurse administrator. Participation in planning budget, assistance from the subordinates, request the sufficient fund. So if a fund is not sufficient for us to procure the equipment, means we have to demand the sufficient amount from the budget committee. Submit the budget request with the justification. So we have said no, like whatever we are going to do the procurement of any equipments or any mannequins or any articles being needed for the lab, means we have to give a perfect justification for the procurement of the articles or equipments. Next is expenditure should not exceed the appropriate made. So budget committee will be given some amount, no, so that amount should not be exceeded. So that means what, we have to go and search for the best amount that is being fitting into the budget review committee. For example, I am telling you, I want the, that is in day to day life I am telling you the example. So I want the onion with the rate of 50 per kg. So in some shops they will be selling for 60 per kg, and some shops they will be selling for 55 per kg, and one shop is selling for 50 per kg, means I have to go and get the procure from that particular shop which is selling in what my amount is being coinciding. That is known as proper budgeting. So based on the budgeting committee's approval amount, we have to procure the equipments and it should not exceed it. So that's all about the budgeting of various units and levels. That is on the hospital institution and also the educational institution we have seen. So hospital institution have their own budgeting process, and when we come for the educational institution, the School of Nursing have a separate budgeting process and the College of Nursing have a separate budgeting process. So the head of the institution and the principal and the budgeting committees like nurse administrators, they all will be the, and nursing directors, they all will be the person to do the budgeting process. So also the budget is a tool that manages, use and control the use of scarce resources. So whatever we are doing the budgeting, it should not go and stagnate in a particular place. So we should say that the proper movement of the articles and equipment is done. So far we have discussed about these all budgeting in both hospital and educational institution. And also the planning alone is insufficient. So we should not only have a proper planning, but also we should have a proper control over the equipments. So we have to be very much ensure in having the budgeting as a visionary process. That is, whatever we are planning a budget, we have to concentrate on the future terms and needs, and also even a condemnation of a particular equipment requires a budgeting, and even a maintenance of a particular equipment requires a budgeting. So each and every movement that we are doing in the educational institution or hospital needs a proper planning and control over the equipments and articles. So that's all we have discussed. Kindly like it, share it and subscribe it, the Nursing in Handy channel.